But you see now, at this point, you have to start thinking of nusumkate. This person, my wife, half, and you half. And I was like, I don't require any half bread. I can get a full loaf for myself.
With women, I find that with marriage, there is, it's almost a status symbol to be Mrs. So and so in the community, in the church. So now you've come from being a Mrs. Flani to now this person has gone. How does the community view you as a widow?
You actually lose value in the community. First of all, you are that other person that no one really cares about, because the man has gone, so you are like not very visible, or you're just there. And the community, actually, some of the communities will want to have actually that widow inherited by one of the relatives in the family. Sometimes forced, sometimes negotiated. But I think every woman needs to be given a chance to make a decision on whether they really want to get into a relationship with their relatives, or to get into a relationship elsewhere with someone else who is not a relative, so to speak.
Or get into a relationship at all.
Or get into a relationship at all. You can decide, I don't want to get into a relationship with reasons. And no one, I think no one should be forced to get inherited. But there is a fear of, the children, you will go away with our children or something like that. Anyway, generally there is that. I've also seen it in the church. I remember when my son was getting married, and in the church I was asked to identify a man that I can stand with in front of the church to receive the bride. And I thought that was the abuse of the highest order, because who said I needed a man to stand with in front there to receive a bride? So if he stands there and receives the bride that particular day, then what about tomorrow? What criteria do I even use to pick that man? What about his wife? And even if he was a brother-in-law or whoever, what role do they play in bringing or in the life of the new wedded people that the wedded couple that we are supposed to be receiving? Is it meant to give a show? Or what exactly was that? I remember I really got offended, and I said I'm not going to do that. And they either skip that bit, or I leave them, and once the wedding is done, we can meet at the reception area, so that I don't have to identify a person to stand with me. I felt like I was apparent enough, and after all, that was, I think, 2 years down the line. There is no one who came to help me sort out my issues. So why am I looking for someone now to stand here in the church with? I mean, what exactly was the thought process, even for that to be for that kind of statement to come out? And I felt like I asked myself, if I was a man, would that man be asked to identify a woman to stand there in front and receive a bride? Or is it because I'm a woman now, I'm a lesser person in the community, and I need to show the community that I can be able to take care of the bride, and that can only be done when there is a man in the, those kind of questions. So there is a lot of looking down upon the widow. There is also a lot of suspicion among even friends, and the former friends, like family, friends, there is a lot of suspicion, even in the community. Like, I remember mentioning that I got a person who was driving me, and I had issues with the wife because there's a lot of insecurity that probably this person who is you will grab my husband, so to speak. You will take away my husband from me. So there is a lot of insecurity that sometimes can cause unnecessary trouble, or there is a lot of suspicion that a widow will grab other people's husband. Like, for example, when I was constructing my wall, I felt like I needed someone to help me deal with the fundis, because there's also a way they look at a woman. So there are those things that you will find yourself reaching out to a man, not necessarily to a woman. And you find that sometimes a widow will probably reach out to a certain man to help in something. I know a friend of mine who reached out to a man to help in repairing of the car, now that the spouse has just died, and she needed actually the car to go to the funeral with it. And now she can't even leave the house because of other things. So so there are those things that men will help the widows do, and their wives become oversensitive. This is what I would want to tell those wives, that every married person is a potential widow and a potential widower. And what that widow, the kind of support that widow requires from your spouse, you may also require it from someone else. So let's not just be so insecure within ourselves that we actually don't give the required support to those that have lost their spouse.
All right, so what you're talking about is the stigma from the community,
Yes.
where you are almost cannot be seen with a man.
Yes.
You talked about the fundi who wouldn't come, the fundi friend who wouldn't come unless another man was present.
Yes.
So how have your social interactions been? Are you even able to meet with friends the way you used to? What happened to your friendships since your husband's passing? Especially because I know with married couples, especially because you were married for 25 years, about 25 years, you tend to form family friends, not necessarily individual friends. So how did the dynamics shift after your husband passed?
They shifted in a crazy way. First of all, let me say that those friends really came in very strongly to support during the funeral, during the bereavement period, and until the body was buried. But after burial, you dance your own music. I think there is that fear of those friends getting closer to this widow. And what happens is that the widow is looked at as a person full of problems. So you don't want to carry other people's problems. So we have buried the husband, you sort yourself out. You are not the first widow, or rather, I mean that the attitude that comes out. And that puts the person, the survivor, in a very lonely position. And especially if the person, these relationships were built by the departed person. Sometimes probably the departed person was the glue to the relationship. When this person passes, that glue is not there anymore. So this other spouse is left in the wilderness, rather. I remember one of them when he lost a relative, and when we went to see them, because they were very close to the family, my sister said, mbona mumeachilia huyu, do you go and visit ta. And this person was candid, and that's why I'm picking this from what he said. And he said, you see, this person, your sister is very hardworking and is very loving generally. He's a person of the people, and I fear even if I keep visiting there, my wife will cause trouble for me or will be suspicious. And I was wondering, then why don't you visit with your wife if but there is that kind of security that is in women that even when we are going there and we are together with my spouse, probably you know, they are looking at each other from the corner of their eyes or something like that. I think those are things that we really need to, as women, we need to grow above and be secure in our relationships and extend hands to those that require to be supported, so to speak. However, when there were other functions that I invited them, I really got support. But the cutoff is that one of other interactions where I'm not inviting. I don't get invited unless I'm the one who is inviting people to come. So you stand on your own until when probably you need people to come, you invite them, they come. When they're doing their functions, they forget whether you exist or you don't. And that lets the person remain a lonely person. Yet God created us to be social beings.
Now that you've touched on it, about dating, you've mentioned how there are people who are afraid that you were eyeing, or their husbands would be eyeing you. Are there situations where you felt like there are people who are now wanavuka mpaka, where they would they would reach out to you and you are wondering, what is this?
Yes. Actually, immediately after death, most widows don't think about, or rather personally, I didn't think of getting into any kind of relationship. I didn't think it was necessary. I looked at, there's so much to be done and cleared to even have that come into my mind, right? But I remember sitting down with a friend who told me, you know, now you have to get a friend. And I said, so which friend? And he suggested himself that I have to be his intimate friend. And I was wondering, okay, but I thought you're married. And he was like, yeah, but you see now at this point, you have to start thinking of nusu mkate. This person, my wife, half, and you half. And I was like, I don't require any half bread. I can get a full loaf for myself, because again, that becomes cumbersome and troublesome. And about dating, like we are talking about dating now, eventually that loneliness and companionship becomes a need. Actually, the loneliness becomes an issue, and a companion becomes a need eventually, whether we may want to speak about it or not. And culturally, what has been happening and what has been the common practice, especially in the reserves, in town it is a little bit different, but in the reserve is when your husband dies, then you stay. You stay like that, and the community does not consider that you have other needs. You have emotional needs. You have all these other things that are required, that are needed. And but in the towns and people who are probably a little bit exposed, they may want to get into dating, and that has its own challenges too, especially for women. One, identifying the right person is not very easy, especially for women. and mature women. If the women are probably of younger age, that becomes a little bit easier, but also not as much because of the children, because there are children to be taken care of, and one is not very sure how the new spouse is going to handle or treat their children. So some of them shy off and say, let me bring up my children. Once they are through, then I can think of getting remarried or starting dating or something like that. For people like probably of our age, 45, 50 and above, it becomes very difficult to actually identify a person to get as a companion or as a date, so to speak, with the aim of probably later on living together. Personally, what I've been told by most people is that you really don't have to have someone that you live together. You need someone that you can meet out there. And the question is, meet out there then? What kind of this meeting out there? I need to talk to this person here in my house or in whatever house we sit, we discuss issues. But when we go and meet out there, each person goes their way. I don't think that fulfills that need of companionship, really. But it can probably fulfill the sexual needs or other needs that will also be fulfilled inappropriately. The older man of 50 years can even get a younger woman of 25 years. But a woman of 50 years cannot get a date of 30 years. And if it is done, or if it happens, it raises eyebrows. When it also comes to the children of the survivor, the children of the survivor, because this redating or remarrying, it is not just about the two people. It is not about the man and the woman. There are other significant others, including the parents and the children of the people that are planning to get married, accepting the other person. Yeah, they probably look at that person and I think, this person, I don't think is the right person, or I don't see myself calling this one dad, or rather father, or having him take the space of my father in my mother's life, so to speak. And also there is a tendency of the children occupying that space of the deceased person. And I wanted to share an experience of a friend who shared with me, a senior lecturer in one of the universities who we shared lunch, a widower, and he told me how some friends came to visit him after the death of the wife, I think a year or so later, and one of the ladies did not have something to keep herself warm. So he went to the wife's wardrobe and picked a shawl and gave this lady to keep herself warm in the house. And that brought a lot of issues. Why did you give out my mom's shawl to that lady? Who is she? Why did you give her? Is she replacing my, the question at the back of their minds is she replacing our mom who has passed on? And it was very difficult for this man now to even show the innocence in just giving this shawl to this person. And he was telling me, you think it is difficult for a woman to get a spouse? It is even worse for a man to get a spouse too, especially because of the children. Because they don't want that space to be filled in by someone else. And my plea to children also is this, that they realize their one parent, the surviving parent, was used to having a companion, having someone she can talk to, having someone at her level, even if they are grown-ups, at her level that she can talk to. And when now that person is not there, there is a big gap. It is important to consider that the surviving spouse requires to meet that need of a companion if they choose to. It is also doesn't make it any easier when it comes to the parents. Luckily, for myself, I have a very, very loving father-in-law, because the father-in-laws or the parents-in-laws also can be a block, because now you are married to our son. Now, how can you get married to another man? But for me, I'm very lucky, because my father literally asked me, how is life now? Some 3 years down the line after the son had passed, how do you live? And how do you want to live? And I knew what he was asking, but I pretended I didn't quite understand. And he told me, this life is very difficult when you're living alone. Have you thought about it? And I said, yes, it is difficult. But what do you want me to do? Because I didn't want to be the one that is speaking it out. And he told me, if you ever identify, if you want to live with another man, now that my son is gone, you have my blessings. It is you to decide. If that is how you want to live, get that man that you want to live with, bring him to my house and tell me, now this is the man that I'm going to start living with, or this is my other husband, or this is my husband that I want him, my husband, and also to bring up my family with, and I'll give you my blessings. And I remember him saying, and I asked him, what if you are not there when that happens? Because I've not thought about it now. And he said, if I will not be there, if I will have passed on, he called the wife and said, don't bother this lady. If she wants to get remarried, give her your blessings. I've given her blessings to get remarried. And in the event that I'm not there, she should take that man to her father, now my own father, and introduce the man to her own father, and tell the father that this is the man that she wants to get married. I think she was trying to take care of me in one way or the other. And I felt like I have a very understanding father-in-law, because I know of parents that have made it very difficult, even for their young daughter-in-laws to get remarried. Yeah. So, and also my children, we had that discussion with my children also. And I said, personally, even now, and I speak about it openly, is that if I get the right person, I would want to have a companion. I would want to date again. I would want to remarry, so to speak, and live that old age that I will not be so lonely. I'll have someone to be with in the house. And apparently my children were very supportive. I remember my daughter telling me that when you get one, then count on me to help you organize the wedding. Definitely, I don't think I'll want to really have a wedding, even if that happened. But yeah, I got support from my children. I've got support from my father-in-law, and I also mentioned the same to my own parents, that in the event that I identify the right person, I would want to settle down with someone else, and I have blessings all around. What am I saying? Let us, the widows, not shy from meeting our needs, because we have those needs, and other people will not meet them for us. And let us not conform or fear what the society says. The people who matter here are the significant others. If the significant others, like now, the way my parents have said it is okay, my father-in-law has said it's okay, my children have given me support, then I ride on. And also, those children that will bow or block, you really have to think through, because it is your life. It is you and your life. Already you have a loss, and you need someone, probably, if you think you do. But there are those who think they do not need to. Probably what I would say is that we be careful not to break other people's families. Because mostly, and if anyone watches this and feels offended, please forgive me. When we pretend that we don't require that kind of companion, we will do it on the surface, but behind the curtains, we have relationships that are unhealthy. or that are unhealthy with to other significant others of the other person. So it is important for us to come out in the open, get your other person that you do, probably a widower or someone else who is not committed, or who is not running away from his family, because one of the greatest thing I think about as a Christian is how easily make another woman cry because you, for whatever reason, the husband has preferred you to her. So yeah.